Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing fine. And guess what? Today we are going to continue our session on Unit 4 Communication. And today is a special section that we're going to cover. It's effective communication. So imagine we are having a coffee and chatting about how we share our thoughts and ideas with others and why sometimes it feels like a win while other times it's like talking to a brick wall. So, communication is this huge umbrella that covers all the ways we exchange vibes, whether it's through chatting, the emojis we send, the emails we write, the memes we share, or even just listening, which, by the way, is a superpower in its own right. It's not just about what we say out loud, it's about those silent conversations we have over text, the facial expressions we make during a video call, or the old school letters we might still write and send. Now, for our chat to really hit the spot, it's got to be clear, on point, accurate, brief, but not too brief, right? And kind of solid and complete. Think of these as the secret ingredient to killer communication. Let's break them down with some real examples, shall we? First one is clarity, which is, by the way, a king. Ever played that game of telephone where what you start with and what you end up with are hilariously different? That's what happens when clarity takes a backseat. We're aiming for crystal clear waters here, not kind of mud. It should be clear. Then we have correctness, which is about getting your ducks in a row. Picture texting your crush with the confidence of Shakespearean sonnet, but the spelling of text sent in a rush. So autocorrect can only save you so much. So yeah, keeping things grammatically neat and using the right words can save you from sending I love ducks instead of I love you, right? Next, we have conciseness, which is a kind of bestie when you're trying not to bore someone, right? Ever had a friend who tells a quick story that somehow spans 3 centuries? Don't be that friend. Keep it short and sweet. Then we have courtesy, which is about being the person everyone wants at a party. It's sending a thank you text after hanging out or not blasting someone's phone with messages at 3 a.m. So, politeness goes a long way in making sure your message is received warmly, which means being as real as that first sip of coffee in the morning. It's about ditching the vogue and bringing in the solid fact. For example, saying, let's meet at 3 p.m. by the fountain instead of let's meet sometime in the afternoon. And then we have coherent or maybe consideration, which is like planning a road trip. You want a smooth ride from start to finish. It's thinking about what your listener needs to know and how you can make it easy for them to follow along, like arranging your epic tale of weekend adventure in a way that doesn't jump from Friday night to Sunday morning without explaining Saturday. Then we have completeness, which is the cherry on top. Ever left a movie feeling like they forgot to film the ending? That's the frustration of incomplete communication. Make sure you're giving the whole picture, like when you're explaining directions and include landmarks, not just turn left and then right. Then we have 4S of communication. And what are these? First is shortness, then we have strength, simplicity, and sincerity. So, when you're talking about shortness, it is said that brevity is the spirit of wit. The same applies to the communication. The power of message is determined by the trustworthy of the messenger, that is the strength. Then we have simplicity. So using simple words and concepts indicates clarity of thoughts. Then we have sincerity, which is quite important because the recipient can detect a genuine approach to a problem. Whenever the sender is sincere, it will be evident in their communication. You might have had the same experience, right? Then let me tell you about the benefits of effective communication. Alright, let's chat about how awesome it is to be good at communicating, not just in the stuffy boardroom of the corporate world, but also in the cozy corner of your personal life. It's like having a superpower that works wonders everywhere, from the office to your living room. So let me tell you about this in the world of work. Imagine you're at a work, right? Being able to share your ideas clearly and listen to what others are saying can seriously make things smoother. It's like being the conductor of an orchestra, making sure everyone's is in sync, playing their part perfectly. This doesn't just make the team vibe better, it actually gets the creative juices flowing. Picture a brainstorming session where everyone's bouncing ideas of each other, building on what the other person said. That's where the magic happens. Now, think about how much nicer it would be if everyone actually stuck around because they felt valued and understood. That's what effective communication can do. It keeps people happy and on board, reducing the headache of constantly hiring new folks. Plus, when people know what's going on and feel part of the bigger picture, they're more likely to spot and grab opportunity for growth, both for themselves and the company. And let's not forget, when you get really good at communicating, you build these rock solid relationship at work. It's like knowing you have got a work fam you can count on. Now moving over to the personal side of things, think about how much smoother your relationship would be if you just got each other better. It's about sharing how you feel, what you think without the drama. Imagine you're planning a surprise party with friends or trying to decide on a movie night. Clear communication means less hassle and more fun. It's also about the deep stuff. Ever had a heart to heart that left you feeling like you truly understood someone or were understood? That's the gold right there. Building trust and transparency with your people, whether they're old friends or new acquaintance, can turn casual chats into meaningful connections. And when it comes to tackling problems or squashing beefs, being a good communicator is like being a ninja. Instead of letting things escalate into World War III, you are able to navigate through the mess, find common ground, and come up with solutions that work for everyone. It's about keeping the peace and keeping your relationships healthy and happy. So, in a nutshell, whether you're aiming to be a most valuable player at work or just trying to keep your personal life running smoothly, leveling up your communication skills is the way to go. It makes life easier, more productive, and a whole lot more enjoyable. Now, first thing we're going to talk about in effective communication is the verbal communication. How can you make this effective? So, communication in its essence is all about sharing messages, thoughts, or information. It's like when you're texting your friend about where to meet up for a coffee, or when you're trying to explain to your grandma how to use a smartphone. It's all about communication, just in different forms. Now, when we talk about communication, we often hear about verbal communication all the time, and in your exam, they also ask based on that. So this fancy term, which is verbal communication, basically means using words to convey your message. It's like when you're chatting with someone face to face, giving a presentation, or even when you're arguing with your siblings over the remote control. It's all about the words we choose, how we say them, and how the other person makes sense of them. Language is this cool symbolic tool we use. It's like a bridge between what's in our heads and what we want others to understand. Let's bring in some experts into our casual chat. Think of I.A. Richards and Charles Ogden as these old school influencers who come up with the triangle of meaning model. Imagine a triangle where one corner is the word dog, another corner is actually fluffy barking dog, and the third corner is the picture of a dog that pops up in your head when you hear the word. This triangle is a simple way to show how words, what they refer to, and the ideas they conjure up in our minds are all connected. So next we have a written communication in verbal communication, that is also called verbal communication. So digging deeper into the verbal side of the things, it's not just about blabbing words. There's a science to it, like the sounds we make, which is phonology, and how we form words, that is morphology. So the way we string words together, which is syntax, and what words mean, that is semantic, how easy it is to understand, and how we use them in real life, that is your pragmatic. It's the difference between knowing how to say I love you in a way that makes someone's heart flutter and just blurting it out like you're reading a grocery list. So switching gears to written communication, it's all the stuff we write down, whether it's emails, texts, letters, or even those Instagram caption you spend way too much time on. It's about getting your point across through words on a screen or paper. Written communication tends to be more formal and thought out than verbal. It's like the difference between sending a well crafted apology letter versus saying just sorry in the heat of the moment. And in verbal communication, we have verbal communication. As you know, in verbal communication, we have two types: verbal communication and written communication. So we already discussed about the written communication. Now let's quickly move to what is verbal communication. So verbal communication, though it's a super common and versatile, it's those words that fly out our mouth, whether we are gossiping, giving a speech, or chatting on a video call. Think about the last time you had to explain why you were late without sounding like you are making excuses. That's verbal communication at its finest. From face to face chats, phone calls, Skype, Zoom sessions, to those moments when you're trying to make your point in a group meeting or calming down a friend over the phone. It's all about using words effectively. It's the difference between a boring lecture and a heart to heart talk that keeps you hooked. So next time you're sharing a story or arguing a point or just shooting the breeze, remember you're engaging in the art of communication, whether it's through a carefully drafted emails or a spontaneous conversation. It's all about connecting with others, sharing ideas, and hopefully understanding each other a bit better. Now let me tell you about the factors of effective verbal communication. And in that section they have asked question based on that. So first of all, being all the ears, which is like active listening, is the key secret sauce in your communication burger. It's not just about letting the other person chat while you plan your dinner in your head. It's about really tuning in, nodding along, and showing you get them. Imagine you're sharing a crazy day at work story and your friend is so into it, asking questions and laughing at the right spot. Feels good, right? That's the vibe we are talking about. Next, we have being a good listener. It's awesome to share, but ever had a moment where you're telling a tale and the listener looks puzzled? That's your cue to check in and clarify. Next is like ask for clarification, and when you're on the one doing the asking, go for those open-ended questions, the kind that can't be answered with a simple yes or no. It's like asking your buddy what was the highlight of your road trip instead of did you have fun on the road trip. You'll get to hear all about the detour to that unexpected kind of travel, making the convo way more interesting. Then the non-verbal communication cues. So those silent signals we give off all the time, right? So the way we nod, our eyes twitches, or how we can't seem to sit still tells a story too. It's like when you're telling a joke and instead of laughing, your friend just stares, awkward, right? So your body is telling its own tale, whether you know it or not. So speaking of telling, ever listen to someone who talks like they're reading an encyclopedia? Imagine explaining to a 10-year-old why the sky is blue without using the word scattering. So we have to be straight to the point and speaking confidently. So confidence is like the magnet. Ever noticed how some folks can talk about the most mundane things like socks and make it sound epic? That's confidence at play. It's not about being the loudest, but about believing in what you're saying. And humor is a kind of your friend. So have you ever laughed so hard that milk came out of your nose? That's the power of humor. It breaks ice, builds bridges, and make even the dullest topic a kind of blast. And then thinking is crucial before speaking. Very important. Think before you speak. Old but gold advice. Ever blurred out something and immediately wished for a time machine? Taking a second to organize your thought can save you from foot in mouth disease. Then we have body language. It speaks volume. Like when someone says they're fine, but their arms are crossed and they are frowning. So that clearly shows that this guy is, everything but not fine. Next is think about the perspective of the person. Just because you can recite every Star Wars movie line doesn't mean your coworker can tailor your talk to so they can tailor your talk so they don't feel like they're in a galaxy far, far away. Then vocal tone is equally important. The next is vocal tone is equally important. Ever listened to robot on the phone and felt like nothing? That's because the tone adds flavor. Switch it up, add some highs and lows, and suddenly you're not just heard but you are felt. Now let me tell you about the non-verbal communication, or just simple NVC. We already had a brief discussion in our previous session in our types of communication. Here we're gonna go a little bit deeper. And that non-verbal communication, in short, we say NVC. So imagine you're hanging out with your friends and without anyone saying a word, you can tell if someone's excited or someone is bored or even a bit annoyed. That's NVC in action. It's all about those unspoken vibes we send and receive, like the way we make eye contact, the gesture we throw around, our facial expressions, how we stand or sit, and the subtle, ways we move our body. So back in 1872, Charles Darwin was onto something big when he published The Expression of the Emotions in Man and Animal. He basically kicked off our fascination with how we express feelings without saying a word. So when we talk about non-verbal communication, remember there are two key moves, which is encoding and decoding. So encoding is like your personal broadcast system. We already talked about in our previous session, and also in the beginning of the communication unit we talked about encoding, decoding, noise and all this stuff. If you can recall, then it's better, otherwise you just pay attention here. So encoding is like your personal broadcast system where you show your emotions through your body language in a way that others can get what you're feeling. For example, when you're super excited about a surprise party, your wide eyes, huge smile, and little happy dance send a clear message that you're excited. And then decoding, or what some folk call non-verbal sensitivity, is about picking up what others are laying down, interpreting those silent signals accurately. It's like when your friend walks in looking deflated with slumped shoulders and avoids eye contact, and you instantly know they had a really rough day, even without them uttering a single word. So, culture is a big player in this silent world of communication. It's like the unwritten rule book that guides what's cool and what's not in expressing ourselves without words. For instance, a thumbs up might be a sign of approval in one culture, while in other it could be taken as a wrong way. When we are in the thick of non-verbal communication, it's not just about watching and mimicking gestures. We are tuned into the whole vibe of the situation, using all senses to get the message. Picture this: you're at a cozy little cafe with your friend. You're not just looking at their smile or listening to the music in the background. You're soaking in the warm glow of the lights, the comforting scent of coffee, the soft touch of the couch, and maybe even the taste of your favorite chocolate muffin without realizing it. You're relying on. So remember, there are five senses that has separate kind of percentage to understand and get it. Remember, 83% sight catch those visual clues. Whatever we see is 83. Then we have 11% of like what we hear for the tones and sounds that are in words. Then we have 3% of smell, which might remind you of memory or feeling. Then 2% touch, like a reassuring pat on the back. And 1% taste, which can set off a whole range of emotions and memories. So NVC, or non-verbal communication, is this intricate dance of signals and interpretations, deeply influenced by our cultures and played out in the rich settings of our life. It's fascinating how much we can say without ever speaking a word. Remember, a non-verbal communication is very important in UGC NET exam because they have been keep asking about question based on that, like haptic and Oculesics and all these other terms that we're gonna talk about. So the first thing is in non-verbal communication, we have social cues. What are these? And then we'll also talk about kinesics. Very important because in recent exam they have asked question based on that. We'll talk about it after social cues. Let me tell you about these social cues, which are like the secret sauce in our daily chats and handouts, giving us the lowdown on what's really going on beyond just words. Think of them as the unspoken hints or signals we give off through our facial expression, how we stand or sit, the tone of our voice, and even the way we move. These cues are super handy because they help us figure out what someone else is feeling or thinking and guide us on how to respond during conversations and other social movements. So, for example, let's talk about eye contact. Ever noticed how locking eyes with someone can say a lot? Like when you're telling a story and your friend is giving you their full attention, their eyes glued to yours, you feel like you're really being heard. Or when someone avoids eye contact, it might give you the vibe they're not all that into the conversation, or maybe they're feeling shy or uncomfortable. Facial expression are another biggie, right? A smile can warm up a room, showing happiness or approval, while a frown or raised eyebrow might signal confusion or disapproval. Imagine you're cracking a joke and the crowd breaks into smile and laughter. You instantly know your jokes landed really well. Then there is the tone of voice. Ever heard someone, it's not what you said, it's how you said it? That's all about vocal tone. Your friend might say they're fine in a flat monotone voice, but you can tell they're really not okay because of the lack of warmth or enthusiasm in their voice. Then we have body language, which is also quite important. Like crossed arms might mean someone is feeling defensive or closed off, while leaning in can show interest and engagement. Picture this, you're at a party and you see two people facing each other, leaning in, laughing. You'd guess they are having a great time and are interested in each other's company, right? These cues are everywhere, helping us navigate the social world by offering clues about what others might be thinking or feeling. Even if they don't say it outright, it's like being a detective in the world of human interaction, where a glance or a shrug or a tone of voice can reveal a whole story. And the better we get at picking up and understanding these cues, the smoother and our social interactions go. It's all about turning in to those around us, making connections and responding in ways that build understanding and rapport. Now let me tell you about the kinesics. Very important, as I told you, this was asked in your exam. So in that perspective, this particular term is quite important. So kinesics is basically the fancy term of for understanding all the ways our body chat without us saying a word. It's like decoding the secret language of facial twitches, hand waves, and even the way we stand or sit. There is this guy, Ray Birdwhishell is the big name here. He's a kind of the Sherlock Holmes of body language, figuring out that our bodies say a lot even when our lips are sealed. But here's the kicker, all these bodily chats don't exactly fit what we'd call a language in the traditional sense. It's more like a collection of hints and clues that can mean totally different things depending on where you are in the world. Let's talk faces first. Your face is like billboard and that advertises what you're feeling, whether you're over the moon, happy, or feeling like a sad puppy. It's all there in your expressions. But catching the vibe isn't just about spotting a smile or a frown, it's about putting together the whole puzzle. Eyes darting around, eyebrows doing a little dance, lips curving up or down, and even your nose and cheeks getting in on the action. Think about when you're trying to figure out if your friend really likes their surprise gifts. You're not just looking for a grin, you're actually watching for those genuine sparkle in their eyes, or if their smile is reaching the corners of their eyes, known as the crinkles of truth. Now, onto the art of sitting and standing. Ever noticed how some people sit up straight as if they're ready to take on the world, while others slump like they're trying to disappear into their chair? That's body posture talking loud and clear. Sitting up straight screams like I'm here and I'm confident, and slouching on the other hand mumbles like I'd rather be invisible. Thank you. So, and if you see someone with crossed legs and folded arms, it's like they're saying, nope, not open to this. So, but then there is that relax, lean back, and universal sign off like, all good here, carry on, you just talk. So, gestures are where it gets really fun. They are the jazz hands of body language. A shrug is the international emojis for I haven't got a clue. Right, while a nod is like hitting the yes button in a conversation, thumbs up, that's your green light, the go ahead signal, and handshakes, they are the classic hello, goodbye, congrats, and nice to meet you, all these kinds of sentences. Last but not least, let's talk about the power of eye contact. Locking eyes with someone can be like saying, hey, I'm listening, and you have got my full attention. You carry on. But dodge the gaze, and it's like you're telling the world, I'm just not that into this kind of conversation. Thank you so much. I don't want it. So, next time you're hanging out with friends or sitting in a meeting, take a moment, watch the silent ball out of the body language going on all around you. It's like everyone's speaking without making a sound. And once you start tuning in, it's pretty fascinating stuff. Next, we're going to talk about Oculesics. Very important because it is all about blink rate. And in exam, they have asked question based on that too. How fascinating it is. Right, so Oculesics might sound like a complicated word, but it's really all about fascinating ways we use our eyes to communicate without saying a word. It's a special part of body language that zeroes in on eye movement, the way we look at things or people, and the other eye related signals we send out without even realizing it. First, let's talk about that eye contact. So this can be pretty straightforward, like when you're looking someone right in the eyes to show you're paying attention, or it can be more subtle, like catching someone's glance from across the room to say hello without making it a sound. It's all about direct and indirect ways we speak with our eyes. Then there is this whole world of eye movement. Some of these are choices we make, like glancing away from someone when we are thinking, or following a butterfly with our gaze because it caught our interest. Other times our eyes move on their own, like that quick dart to the side when something surprises us. And then we have pupil dilation is another cool aspect. Ever noticed how your pupil get bigger when you're in a dim room? That's your eyes adjusting to help you see better. But it's not just about light, it's about focus and interest too. Say you're scrolling through your phone and suddenly a picture of delicious cakes pop up. Your pupil might dilate because hey, cake is exciting, isn't it? So this happens without you even trying to control it. Lastly, there's gaze direction. This is all about where you're looking and what that says about your desires or interest. For example, if you're gazing out the window during a long meeting, it might be your eyes saying, I wish I were outside, right? Or when you're staring into the eyes of someone you care about, it's like your gaze is sending hugs and kisses without moving a muscle. So whether it's the direct eye contact you make when sharing a secret, the involuntary pupil dilation at the sight of your favorite dessert, or the longing gaze toward the exit on a slow work day, our eyes are constantly talking. It's pretty amazing how much can be said without uttering a single word, right? Remember, next we have very important term which is proxemics. Very important because in the recent exam they ask based on that. So which is basically what distance and physical environment or appearance. So let me talk about it in depth so you'll have all the understanding and the fundamental about proxemics. So back in 1966, a guy named Edward T. Hall came up with this cool concept called proxemics. It's all about how close we stand to each other when we are hanging out, chatting, or just being around people. It's like there's an invisible tape measure between us, sizing up our comfort zone. Let's break it down into the nitty gritty, starting with the intimate distance. So, by the word, you can understand it's kind of extremely close kind of distance. So, this is for those moments when you're really up close and personal. Think about hugging your best friend, whispering a secret, or that check to check selfie. So the close phase is when you are super close, like less than a whisper away, like the less than 6 inch or so. Then there is this far phase which stretches out a bit more, like 6 to 18 inches. It's close but with just enough space to breathe. Then moving on, we have the personal distance. This one's for the people you're tight with, but not in whisper in the ear kind of way, like good friends, family members you're cool with. That's your crowd here. The close phase is a kind of like sharing a couch without squeezing each other, about 1 to 5 to 2.5 inches. So the far phase gives a bit more elbow room, like 2.5 to 4 feet, perfect for a friendly chat over coffee. Then there is social distance. So by the word you can understand, and you had that experience in the COVID time, right? So this social distance, which is for those you know but aren't super close with. Think co-workers, that friendly neighbor or acquaintances from your yoga class. The close phase is like standing in a small group, like 4 to 7 feet apart, enough space to avoid stepping on toes, right? So the far phase stretches from 7 to 12 feet, ideal for a more formal setting like a networking event where you're mingling but not getting too cozy. Lastly, we have a public distance. This is for when you're in the spotlight or just part of a crowd, like giving a presentation or attending a concert. The close phase is about 12 to 25 feet away. It's personal enough to connect with your audience but it still keeps a professional vibe. The far phase is 25 feet or more, where you're addressing a large group or an audience that is spread out, like at a graduation ceremony or a large public event. So why does all these matters, you might be wondering? Well, first is because of your exam, and also because understanding proxemics helps us to navigate social situation better. It's about respecting personal space, knowing when to step in closure and when to keep your distance. It makes our interaction smoother and more comfortable, whether you're catching up with a friend, meeting someone new, or addressing to a large crowd. Next, we have paralanguage. So paralanguage, you can understand, it's all about voice. So when we talk about how we use our voices, it's not just about the words we say, it's also about how we say them. Think of your voice's sound, how fast or how slow you speak, or how high or how low your voice is, how loud you get, and even speaking style. And then there is the melody of your speech, like the rhythm, the tune you put on words, and how you emphasize certain parts. This whole mix is called paralanguage or vocalics for the fancy term. It's like sometimes you don't even realize you're doing it, but how you say something can totally change its meaning. For example, imagine saying great job, so in a super monotone voice versus saying it with a lot of enthusiasm. You can just practical it. Suppose someone did a something job, and how you gonna great job. So that sound, if you sound low, that means you're not impressed, you're just saying it. But if you're saying like great work, and it shows the excitement there. So that is your paralanguage. Next, we have haptic, and in recent exam they have asked question based on that too. So you see, we have so many things that in exam they can ask. So haptics, or the art of touch, comes from the ancient Greek word haptikos, and let me tell you, it's a game changer in how we connect with the world and each other. Think about it, touch is at the heart of how we communicate without saying a word. It's like a secret language that's all about feeling and connection, from reassuring pat on the back to celebratory high five, right? When you're happy, you do it. So when we dive into haptics, it's like exploring the hidden meanings behind the touches we give and receive every day. It's not just about body language, it's about understanding the power of touch in our daily interaction. For example, consider the simple handshake. It's not just greeting, it's a way to say I'm open to connecting, or let's make this deal happen. Then there is hand holding, which can be a way to offer comfort or show solidarity, like when you're helping a friend through a tough time or walking with your partner in the park. So let's break down the touch language into 5 cool categories. As you can see over your screen, we have functional, social, or polite, or friendship, or warmth, love and intimacy, or sexual or arousal. We're gonna talk about it one by one. So first we have functional or simple professional. So this is all about getting the job done. It's the handshake at a job interview, the high five when your team nails a project, or even the quick pat on the back from your coach. These touches say we are in this together without crossing personal boundaries. Then we have social and polite. Think of this as the courtesy touch. It's the handshake when you meet someone new at a party, or the polite pat on the shoulder to get someone's attention, or the quick hug when you bump into an old friend. So these are the touches that keeps things friendly and respectful. Then we have friendship and warmth. This is where touch starts to show more personal connection. It's the hug you give your best friend after a long time apart, the playful nudge during an inside joke, or the comforting squeeze of a hand when words just aren't enough. These touches say, I care about you. Then we have love and intimacy. Now we are getting into deep connection territory. This is the cuddle with your partner during a movie night, or the tender kiss on the forehead to say I love you, or the gentle holding of hands that feels like home. These touches are all about emotional attachment and closeness. Then at the end we have sexual and arousal. This level of touch is charged with desire and intimacy. Is the passionate kiss, or the intimate caress, or the playful tickle that says I want you. Those touches are deeply personal and express a strong sexual intent. So next time you reach out to touch someone, think about the message you're sending, whether it's a high five to celebrate, or hug to comfort, or a gentle touch to show love. Every touch has a story, and understanding the language of touch can make those stories even more meaningful. Next we have Chronemics, which is simple the use of time, and in your recent exam they have asked question specifically based on that. Chronemics might sound like a big fancy word, but it's all about how we use time in our day-to-day lives. Time isn't just about clocks ticking and calendars flipping. It's a whole language by itself. By choosing how we spend our time, we are sending messages left and right, often without even saying a word. It's like when you decide to show up early for a coffee date with a friend, that's right there. You're telling them they are important to you. That's why they are here without even opening your mouth, right? So think about it this way. When you carve out time from your busy schedule to help someone move or to attend a family dinner, you're saying loud and clear that these people and activities matter to you. Your actions are speaking volumes about what you value. On the flip side, ever had someone constantly reschedule on you, or worse, ghost you completely? That's silence, that absence. It's a message too, and not a pleasant one, right? It means they are not interested. Let's dive into some everyday scenarios. Picture you're at a work and your boss always makes time to check in with you, asking how you're doing or if you need help with anything. This not only shows they care but also sets the tone of respect and support in your team. It's a power move, but in a good way, demonstrating leadership and fostering a positive environment. Now let's flip the script. Imagine you are in a relationship and your partner is always late to dates or constantly glued to their phone when you're together. This behavior is a form of Chronemics too. It's sending a pretty clear signal about where their priority lies. And spoiler alert, it doesn't feel great on the receiving end, right? So what's the takeaway from all the talk about time? It's that time is more than just hours and minutes. It's a tool we all use knowingly or unknowingly to communicate what's important to us and how we relate to others. Whether it's making time for a friend in need, or showing a punctuality for appointments, or how we prioritize our daily tasks, we are always talking with our time. And getting savvy about this can really change the game in how we connect with those around us and navigate our relationship. So guys, that was all about non-verbal communication. And you see, there are so many terms and there are so many things that in exam they can ask. So remember, that particular section is quite important, that you should pay really more attention, you should prepare more, and you should solve more question based on that, right? And now let me tell you about the intercultural communication. So let's dive into this cool world of chatting and connecting with folks from all corners of the globe. Imagine you're at a big international festival, surrounded by colors, language, and delicious smell from food you can't even pronounce yet. That's where intercultural communication comes into play. It's all about getting the vibe of how people from different places talk, act, and see the world around them. When we are thrown into a mix of people from various backgrounds, different religions, or different upbringings, you name it, we start to see communication isn't just about what we say, it's about understanding the whole picture, including why someone might think or feel differently than you do. It's like trying to learn the rules of a new game on the fly. The goal to get where they're coming from and respect our differences. Now, let me tell you about the factors in effective intercultural communication. In our previous session, we have some small discussion on intercultural and we kept it for this special session. So, let me tell you about it. So, those factors and what are these? First, show you care. It's very important that you show some interest. Like, ever notice how a simple tell me more about that can light up someone's face? That's because showing you're really interested in someone else's story is golden, right? It's about giving respect and making the other person feel valued. Then kind of orientation to knowledge, like know your stuff, very important. This is about understanding the words and phrase that mean a lot to someone else. For example, if someone talks about the big game in the India like cricket, they might mean that World Cup or IPL, right? But in different part it's the different game, right? It could be in different country, like in England they like football World Cup and all these stuff, right? So knowing these nuances help you connect on a deeper level. Then empathy is very important, like walk in their shoes. Imagine your friend is upset because their favorite team lost. Even if sports aren't your thing, you get why they're bummed. Apply that same vibe when someone from another culture shares their feelings or views. Then next we have like relationship role behavior, right? This is about keeping the peace and making sure everyone gets along. It's like being the cool mediator who helps smooth over misunderstanding in a group project. And embrace the unknown, like tolerance, very important. Ever tried a dish without knowing what's in it? It's a bit like that. Be open to new experience without freaking out. It's about enjoying the adventure of learning new things. Then we have like when you're chatting, focus on being clear but not harsh. It's the difference between saying I see it differently and here's why instead of that's wrong. Right? Then tune into the unspoken. Ever noticed how a thumbs up can mean good job in one place and something quite rude in another? That's about reading the room and picking up on body language or tone that might mean different things to different culture. Then think before you act. Before you go for a handshake or a high five, remember that what's cool in your culture might be something else in different culture. It's about being mindful of your action. Then every culture has its own personal space bubble, right? And way of expressing things, whether it's loud greeting or a quiet nod. Understand that and you're halfway there. Then building bridges. It's all about creating a space where everyone feels appreciated and understood. Think of it as laying down the bricks for a stronger, more diverse community, like mutual understanding. Let's put this into a simple life scenario. Say you're working on a group project with folks from Brazil, Japan, and Germany. So the Brazilian teammate is super enthusiastic and loves brainstorming in lively discussion, while your Japanese colleagues prefer sending detailed email. Meanwhile, the German member is all about efficiency and sticking to the plan. So recognizing these differences and finding a way to work together that respects everyone's preferences is what intercultural communication is all about. You're not just getting the job done, you're learning, you're growing, and making friends from all over the map. And that, my friend, is the beauty of diving into the world of intercultural communication. Now let me tell you about the group communication. Like group chats, meetings, brainstorming session, you name it. They're all about getting together with few folks to hash things out, share what's on your mind, or rally around a common cause. It's all about that business when everyone's throwing ideas into the pot, aiming to nail down those goals or give each other a boost of motivation. Imagine you and your friends planning a road trip, everyone's pitching in on where to go and what snacks to bring, and the ultimate playlist. That's group communication in its essence. Three or more people joined by a shared dream, chatting away to make it happen. When we talk about small groups getting down to business, it's like a mini think tank. Everyone's connected, tossing around data, poking at the problem from different angles, and brainstorming solutions. It's teamwork at its best, relying on each other's to come up with the goal. Think about those group projects back in school or planning a serious party. Each person's input is crucial and everyone needs to be in sync. So diving into the types of small groups, we have got the primary group and the secondary group. Your primary group is like your family or close knit friends, the ones you share the deep and meaningful stuff with. Then there is the secondary group, which might be your colleagues or a club you're part of. It's more about getting things done and less about sharing your deepest fears over a coffee. In these small group settings, it's not just about swapping information, it's about sharing how you feel and really listening to each other. Picture a scenario where you're planning a community garden with your neighbors. It's not just about deciding who plants what, it's about hearing each other out, getting excited together, and supporting each other's ideas. Now, how do we keep the conversation rolling, especially when we can't meet up? We enter the digital age like emails, chat room, forum, or social media. These tools have become our virtual meeting rooms. Whether it's a family WhatsApp group keeping everyone's in the loop, or on your friend's birthday plans, or some Slack channels for your side hustle, or digital platforms are where we gather to chat, plan, and connect. Let's break down the ways we communicate in these groups. There's the stuff we say out loud, like verbal communication, and then there is the stuff we don't say, like the eye rolls, high fives, and the thumbs up, non-verbal communication. Right? Sometimes we are all about that face-to-face interaction, like those memorable kitchen table chats or kind of office huddles. Other things, we are all logged into a Zoom call or firing messages back and forth on your WhatsApp. Each style has its vibe and they all play a part in how we connect as a group. So next time you're in a group chat or at a meeting or posting in a forum, remember it's all about coming together, sharing a piece of your mind, and maybe just maybe making something awesome happen. It's the beauty of group communication, making our ideas and connections richer, one conversation at a time. Then next, and at the end, we have classroom communication. It's completely different what communication we discussed till now. Imagine we're just having a friendly chat about how people in classroom chat, share, and learn from each other. It's all about making those connections that help students soak up knowledge like a sponge. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, remember the big three players in this game. The one doing the talking, which is our dear teacher, and the juicy information being shared, that is all subject, right? Or all the knowledge we're after, and the eager listener, and that's kind of me and you, like the students. Now let's break down the ways everyone in the classroom gets their message across. We have got verbal, non-verbal, and written communication. Each one's got its vibe and method, so let's explore them a bit more. So, verbal classroom communication. Picture this, you're in a class and the teacher's chatting away, sharing knowledge using the good old spoken word. This is verbal communication in action. It's all about using voice to spread ideas, ask questions, or give instruction. Say the teacher wants everyone's attention or to get the class started. They might just say, "Hey everyone, let's stand up and get ready to dive in." Or, "Alright, you can take a seat now and we are going to start studying." So it's direct, simple, and gets to the point. Then there is non-verbal classroom communication, and this one is a quite bit interesting because it's all about the unsaid stuff. Think body language, the way someone nods or the expressions on their face. For instance, if a teacher nods along as a student shares their thoughts, it's like saying, I'm with you, keep going, without uttering a single word. It's powerful stuff. Ever noticed how someone's tone or the way they stand can tell you a lot about what they're feeling or thinking? That's non-verbal communication doing its magic. Then we have written communication. Then we have written classroom communication. So, ever get a handout from your teacher or see the day's lesson up on the board? That's a written communication at work. It's all about getting those ideas down in print. Let's say the teacher hands out a quiz to see how well everyone's grasping the material, or maybe they share a Google Doc with the class outline. It's a solid way to make sure everyone's on the same page, literally, and can refer back to the information anytime. And here's a real life example to tie it all together. Imagine you're learning about photosynthesis in biology class. The teacher explains the process verbally, breaking down the steps so everyone gets it. They draw a diagram on the board, a bit like nonverbal communication, to show how sunlight turns into food for plant. Then they hand out a worksheet like written communication for you to fill out, applying what you have learned. It's a mix of all three communication types working together to make sure the concept really stick. So whether it's through a chat or a gesture or a note, communication in the classroom is all about making those connections that help everyone learn and grow. It's the secret sauce to making lessons stick and making sure everyone's on board and engaged. Now, let me tell you about the barriers to effective classroom communication. Imagine you're in a classroom and trying to get the gist of what's being taught, but there is a constant buzz of chit chat, or maybe the AC is humping like it's got a personal grudge against silence. This noise isn't just annoying, it's like throwing a wrench in the gears of the whole teaching learning machine. Now, picture this, everyone's talking, but it feels like no one's really listening. It's like playing a game of telephone. What starts as the cat sat on the mat ends up with the bat ate a hat. So by the time it gets to the last person, this lack of effective listening can twist the information being passed around so much that it barely resembles the original message. Then let's add another twist. Imagine the teacher speaking in a rapid fire French, and you're sitting there, your knowledge of French limited to like bonjour and croissant, not more than that. It's tough, right, when the teacher and student aren't speaking the same language. Literally understanding each other is like kind of as hard as trying to solve a Rubik's cube in the dark. But it's not just about language or noise. Sometimes what's going on inside can be a huge roadblock. Think about a day when you're just not feeling 100%. Maybe you're under the weather or your mind's racing with a million thoughts. If a student's dealing with medical issues or psychological challenges, it's like trying to listen to a lecture while running a marathon in their head. Emotion is another important barriers. Ever had one of those days where you're just down in the dumps or so anxious you can't sit still? Imagine trying to focus on quadratic equation while your heart's doing the cha-cha in your chest. Whether it's dealing with the aftermath of a rough breakup, the anxious or the anxiety of upcoming exams, or just a low self-esteem day, or our emotional states can turn what should be straightforward conversation into a game of emotional pinball. In short, communication in the classroom isn't just about talking and listening. It's all about navigating a maze with obstacles at every turn, noise, language barrier, personal struggle, and whirlwind of emotion. But by understanding and addressing these challenges, we can turn that maze into a clear path forward, making learning a journey we are all equipped to embark on together. Now, let me tell you how you can make this effective communication in the classroom. Creating a chill and welcoming vibe in the classroom is a kind of key. It's all about making sure everyone feels safe and supported, kind of like building a cozy little community when students and teachers get along and support each other. It's a game changer. Students are more into what's happening, more willing to speak up, and even their grades can get a boost. So that's safe environment. Then we have teamwork. Throwing a student into small groups for discussions or projects is like hitting the comfort zone jackpot. It's easier to toss ideas around with a few classmates than to speak up in front of everyone. Plus, it's a great way to polish those chat skills. Then we have the body language. It's not just about what you say, but how you say it. Teachers, make sure your body is speaking the same language as your words. Stand tall, smile, and keep that eye contact. It's like when you're telling a story to your friends, your gestures make the tale even more captivating. Then we have feedback. It's easy to focus on the oops moment, like when things go sideways, but celebrating the wins is just as important. Imagine finishing a tricky puzzle and someone cheering you on. Feels good, right? That's the power of pat on the back. It's about building confidence, and yeah, constructive criticism is crucial too for those moments when there is room for improvement. Then we have the use of multimedia, which makes a lesson kind of interesting. Ever notice how a video or a cool infographic can make a topic stick in your mind? That's because mixing things up keeps our brains engaged. It's like when you're scrolling through social media and a video catches your eyes, suddenly you're hooked. Then keeping tech skills, very important, because keeping tech skills sharp is another way to keep the energy up in the class. Using the latest gadgets or online tools isn't just flashy, it's about connecting with the students in their digital world. It's kind of like when you learn to use a new app to keep up with your friends. Then we have a sense of humor is the secret sauce, right? A good laugh not only lightens the mood but also makes learning more enjoyable. Think of it as the difference between a blunt lecture and a lively conversation with a friend. Laughter builds a bridge between teachers and students, making everyone feel more connected, right? Then be polite, right? Getting to know your student isn't just polite, right? It's a crucial, because it's like being a detective, understanding what makes each student tick so you can tailor your teaching to fit them better. Is the difference between offering a vegetarian a steak versus their favorite veggie dish. It shows you care. And lastly, we have like clarity is your best friend. So be as clear as the summer sky, using words and explanation that everyone gets. It's like giving directions. You wouldn't just say go that way. You'd make sure they knew each turn to take. Then keep it simple. Ever heard of KISS? It's not the KISS that you're thinking. It stands for keep it simple and stupid. But let's not call anyone stupid here. When you're explaining something to your student, think of it as a giving direction. You wouldn't give someone 4 pages of direction to get the nearest pizza place, right? Same deal here. Clear, straightforward instruction are the way to go. It helps students grasp what they need to do without getting lost in translation. So pause for effect is very important. That's the artful pause. In classroom, pausing after dropping some knowledge lets a student digest the information, chat with their buddy about it, and scribble down a light bulb moment. It's like hitting the pause button to let everything sink in. Then walk in their shoes, which is like empathy, and it is like understanding why your friend is freaking out about a spider while you're wondering what the big deal is. So in the classroom, it's about getting why your students might be having a rough day or struggling with a concept without letting the standard slide. It's a balancing act of being understanding while still keeping the bar high. Next, we have like curiosity, and curiosity didn't kill the cat. Remember when you were a kid and constantly asked, why is the sky blue, or why can't I eat candy for dinner all the time? That's curiosity. It's like gold for learning. When students are kind of really interested in something, they're like sponges. They soak up information, remember it because they want to, not because they have to. So throw in some intriguing questions or fun facts to get those curiosity gears grinding. Then fair play. Equity is the goal of giving everyone the same shot at success, no matter their starting point. It's like making sure everyone has the right size bike in a race. Some might need a little push, others a bigger bike, right? But in the end, everyone gets to race fairly. Then get them talking. Ever notice how good A question can turn a quiet room into a buzzing hive of activity. That's the magic of encouraging participation. It's about making students feel like they're part of the conversation, not just spectators. Assign role, throw in some games, or have a debate. Then pump the volume. Motivation is the key. Remember how awesome it felt when someone noticed your hard work. That's the feeling we are aiming for. Celebrate their effort, show genuine interest in their work, and watch as their enthusiasm for learning skyrockets. Then respect. Respect is a kind of two-way street. Ever been in a place where you felt valued and respected? Feels good, right? That's the vibe for the classroom. A respectful environment makes students more likely to engage, participate, and succeed. It's about building a community where everyone feels heard and valued. Then there is no room for nastiness, just like you wouldn't let someone cut in line at your favorite coffee shop without saying something. Disruptive behavior in class needs to be nipped in the bud, right? It's not just about being the bad guy, it's about keeping the peace and making sure everyone can learn in a chill environment. Imagine planning a road trip without a map. You might end up somewhere cool, but chances are you'll just get lost. That's where lesson planning comes in. It's your roadmap for class, helping you navigate through the day's learning adventure without getting sidetracked. Then classroom management for the win. Ever try to organize a group project where everyone wants to do their own thing? Chaos, right? Classroom management is the art of steering that chaos in the right direction. It's about creating a space where learning can happen without distraction, where everyone knows the rules and plays by them. So guys, that was all about classroom communication. And remember, we have discussed so many things in this session, and mostly all these types of communication like haptic. We talked about Proxemics, we talked about Chronemics, we talked about all this stuff, and in exam they have been asking about it. So in that perspective, this session was important. If you didn't get any particular section or a topic or any concept or any term, you can go back and watch again, or otherwise if you want notes, you can just get it. I'll upload it and you will have the notes too. So guys, that was all about communication, and in our next session we're gonna talk about barriers to effective communication. Quite important session because in exam they might ask question based on that too. So for now, bye bye and have a good day.